Recently, me and my team over at Phantasma Shuffle built the first ever broken deck of Union Arena, Renji Rush. You may have heard about it about YouTube videos or just talking in forums like Discord, Facebook, Reddit, whatever. And in my opinion, it's the best deck in format, like easily, especially based off of our testing. So there's a lot of you that are trying to figure out, trying to see what can beat this deck, cooking up the sauciest list with your buddies, which is good. I mean, that's healthy. That's what a format should be, and that's exactly what I like about competitive card games. But I want to tell you that I think our team already figured it out. Now, just as a disclaimer, I genuinely don't think, and we've done a lot of testing and a lot of playing, I don't think there's truly a deck that like 3070s or anything like that, Renji Rush. But there is a deck that nobody else has ever talked about or nobody's actually showcased that is the closest to a 50-50 that you can get with this deck. The deck created by one of our teammates, Eric Ramirez, actually is the one that inspired Renji Rush because he built this deck like literally 100 to 0'd our first iteration of Renji Rush, which then led to the creation of the deck of Renji Rush that you know now. So a lot of people have been asking about that, and Eric said, well, you can go ahead and make a video on it. I teased it before, but let me show you Yellow Stern Ritters, or what I'm dubbing it as Ritter Rush. Now, in order to be successful with this deck, you have to have the same exact mindset as you do when you're playing Renji Rush, which, let me note, a lot of you still really don't know exactly what we're doing, which is not bad at all. It's just a completely different concept to any other Union Arena deck. It's literally not playing Union Arena. You're playing an entirely different game playing these decks. Your whole goal with this deck is to get to 4, 5, 6 energy, right? Get there as fast as possible, ideally 5 or 6. Once you hit those numbers, spread out your entire beat stick line. This deck plays 20 different characters that are 4,000 power. 20. That's more than the Renji Rush deck. The first one that we're going to talk about is Bambietta. Bambietta, don't literally look at anything else on the card except the fact that it's a 4 energy, 1 action point, 4,000 power character with the trigger to put in your hand. You do not raid with this character. There is no way to raid with this character. And so just like the Rookie and the Renji Rush build, this is literally just there to put on the field as a 4,000 power vanilla. Also at 4, you've got Asnote. Asnote, just another great card that you can just lay down, right, and be able to grab from life. A lot of times, just the same concept as the Bambietta, but we're going to talk a little bit more about Asnote later because it has other values. At 5 energy, this is where things kind of get a little bit more trickier. Similar to Asnote, you've got Jugram. Jugram, another really good 4,000 power beat stick character. It just so happens to be 5 energy. We'll also note about this card later. Bazz-B. Bazz-B is actually a really good card, especially for this deck. In my opinion, it's one of the better cards of this deck. Being able on an activate main to trash 1 card and get double damage 2, as well as when you win a battle, aka when your opponent blocks because they don't want to take double damage, you draw a card. That is insane value in this deck. I have done a ton of testing against this deck, and every time Bazz-B hits the field, it is an immediate problem that I have to deal with, right? If my opponent on a single turn plays 3 cards with their 3 action points, a Bambietta in the front line, an Asnote in the front line, and then also a Bazz-B in the front line, I take care of this Bazz-B every single time. This card being able to swing too and also have draw potential, right? You thought Renji was good, but Renji, I have to spend an action point. I can't play down a body. Bazz-B, I just get rid of a worthless card in my hand and I get to draw if you block. This card's insane in my opinion. You also play a couple cards that are at 6, and those cards include, how do they say it in the anime? Oh, Yuhava is 6 energy, which is definitely the high point of this deck. We'll talk about though in a little bit how it's not actually unreasonable to be at 6 energy with this deck. You're actually raiding probably the most with Yuhava, playing 7 of those raid targetable characters. This guy's crazy because during your turn, if 2 or more characters get sidelined in a single turn, This guy gains 1,000 power, making it 5,000 to swing over anything again, and also damage 2. This is really good in matchups like Kurapika, right? Kurapika being a 5,000 power character. Now if they block with that even, it'll die. This also has a really crazy when played effect on the raid of getting rid of a raided card on the front line. So for kind of your traditional decks that you'll face, like Kurapika, like any traditional purple bleach deck, green 13 court bleach deck, and honestly just a lot of any deck in general, because like all decks play some sort of raid card, you get to go ahead and trash that top card. And especially as the trash, now they've got a little weenie baby in the front of the line. Or you know what? They have a 3,000 power character or less. You can instead choose to get rid of one of the characters. Now, the reason that I want to mention and go back to the 3 specific cards, right? Yuhaba, Asnote, and Jugram. All 3 of these cards give you a win condition to push for game, right? The obvious is impact, right? Asnote having impact, Jugram having impact, and then Yuhaba, right? KOing a character. If your opponent just pushes 4 characters to the front line and all you need is 1 spot open, right? To swing with your 4 characters against their 3 to take that final life, you have 4, 8, 12 different outs to that, but also metalize. So 16 different outs. Metalize basically when you got a Yuhaba on the field, which you do because you play a lot of them. This is your KO of 5,000 power or less character card, which is so good. And even if you don't have it on the field, it's 3,000 power less, still respectable. There are 16 different outs to KOing characters in this deck on the final turn to go for game. And again, you only raid when you need either the impact, right, to go for game, or when you're using Yuhaba to get like that character pushed away, that rated character off the field. Some of the other key cards in this deck, one is this guy, Asguiaro Ebern. I don't know how to pronounce it. I've only read Bleach. I've not heard any of their pronunciations. This guy's got Step. This is a really good card to be able to move from the front or back, depending on if you need a swing or depending on if you need energy, right? Because you do have a cost of 5 or 6 that you need in order for this deck to continue. If you also notice just through this Eggman events website, right, that I'm using, there are 52 cards shown on screen right now. There's a pair of 2 cards in here that are more than likely good based on the meta that your locals are at. If you have a pretty diverse locals, right, not everybody is running Renji Rush or anything like that, Nanana is a pretty good card, right? Especially when you talk about mimicking Renji Rush, right? We play the Urahara and it's so good. This is literally just Urahara, but yellow Stern Ritters. It effectively does that same thing, gaining up an energy. So I think honestly, like more often than not, just play this guy. But if you notice that your locals is a ton of Renji Rush, right? I mean, everybody bought out the Renjis on TCG Player. Insane, first of all. But also Green Toshiro, very popular build, right? Being able to rest a lot of the backline and freeze them. If your locals are full of green bleach to the left and purple bleach to the right, you should, instead of Nanana, play Jerome Gizba. Especially if you're playing against purple and green decks, this guy actually costs 2 energy to play in order to give you 2 energy at all times. So especially against green decks, right, if it gets rested and frozen or stunned or I don't know the exact term actually in Union Arena for that, it will always give you 2 energies. But another really good key component, especially when you talk about battling against Renji Rush, right, you have to compete at the pace that they're at. That's how you beat the deck. Nanana, you have to wait until the end of your turn in order to restand this character and gain the 2 energies. In comparison, Jerome Gizbot is an immediate 2 energy as soon as it hits the field. That 2 energy can be huge, especially if you talk about going second. Going second, you play a 0 like Asnote. You then, for your second turn, play Mask Demasculine. This is in the Renji Rush deck, basically an Orihime, right? play this character down, you get 2 energy on a 1 energy cost, and you pick up a 0. That's an ideal first turn for this deck. But on your second turn, right, you're still at 2 action points. If you're facing a purple or green deck, you can go ahead, play this Jerome Gizbot, right, because he costs 2 energies against a green or purple deck. You can then start laying down your beat stick 4s immediately. Or you can go ahead and just play another character, right? Another one of these strong characters, right? Yuhaba, this 3, is really good to manipulate your opponent's top deck in a sense, leaving a card that's not very valuable or trashing a card that is valuable. And if you go ahead and play the Yuhaba, you're sitting at 6 energy. You could literally play anything in your next turn, and especially with Quincy Vol Stern Ditch, right? Basically like the Bonkai or Hunter license, you can have an insane next turn, especially with Mental Eyes. I have a lot of games against this deck, and a lot of times it literally feels like a 50-50, right? In any matchup that I've ever played and ever tested, this is the closest thing to a 50-50. I've even got kind of my numbers to prove it as well. These are my win rates against like the notable decks in the format and those that I've played like a bunch of games against, right? Not just like 1 or 2 games. Ritter Rush as Renji Rush, I only have a 60% win rate against Ritter Rush at this point. Just like Renji Rush, if the deck has a pretty normal and good start and you're a turn behind, it is damning in this game because everything else I play against is 70% or more. That's, I mean, this is our testing right now. This deck as well, this Ritter Rush is insanely cheap. All right, you do the math on TCG Player right now, and this is 52 cards. Remember, I have the 2 and 2, Nanana and Jerome. So you can choose which one you prefer. It costs you less than $30 to build what I would consider to be like the second best deck in format. That's absolutely crazy. And also as well with this, for something else that actually didn't happen, I watched 20 people open boxes, or I watched people open 20 boxes. Shout out to these creators that I watched opening your boxes and took stats on all of the SRs that people got from there. Aznode and Jugram are the 2 most popular, and I know 20 is like kind of a small sample size, but I think you get the point. If you've opened a box, you likely have at least one of these cards each. And that doesn't even include how Bambietta was the most likely alternate art to come out of these boxes. Basby being the 3rd most. Aznode also having multiple. So like, I don't know, if you've opened some product, you probably have a good amount of yellow cards. But in general, this deck is insanely cheap. It's insanely good. But just like the Renji Rush deck, I know I said that it's easy to pilot, but if you don't understand the specific play style that it's trying to do, it's not going to feel very good, and it's not going to be very good. Like, I truly believe that these are the best 2 decks in format, and I think this is the best way, especially right now, to play Union Arena. A lot of you asked for this list. Again, shout out Eric for allowing this list. You know, he's like, yeah, you could just release it. And to be honest, especially in the Eggman event, right, where our team got 1st, 2nd, 3rd, all with the Renji Rush. Especially for me, like, I was not worried about this deck at all because I knew nobody knew anything about it. I feel like that says enough. All right, video almost done editing. Oh, I got a Discord message from Eric. Oh no.